All right, if you guys could choose a background that worked for yourself and made sense for you as a person, what would you choose?
From the existing ones or make your own?
I mean, you could make your own if you want to, but there's a lot of existing ones.
There are a lot of existing ones.
Yeah.
Adam, you got something off the top of your head?
I mean, probably Sage.
Yeah?
Yeah, that seems
fits.
absolutely reasonable.
Right? Like, that's my jam, mostly.
Yeah.
I don't want Soldier. I don't want Sailor.
No.
I'm not going to be a good Acolyte.
I was going to say, the Acolyte would probably be mine.
Yeah, so yours
I'm the Acolyte,
Yeah,
100%.
fair enough.
I'm choosing Hermit, so...
Yeah,
It's the most tempting of the offerings.
Yeah, we know, Megan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's how I live my life.
Welcome to the It's a Mimic podcast, where you never know what you're going to get.
Welcome back to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're going to get. Today, we're continuing our discussion on player options in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I'm Adam, and with me today are Megan and Brad, and this episode is called Bringing the Backgrounds to the Foreground.
In this episode of the It's a Mimic podcast, this panel of Dungeon Masters will be looking at over 85 examples of backgrounds, determining what's worth your time, and ultimately figuring out how you should build your own background.
Have you ever known anyone to actually build their own background? Like the player's handbook suggests, right? There's a whole setup for it.
Yeah.
Or do you just always choose, or all your players always choose the ones that are pre-written for them?
I always start with pre-written ones, and then if I need to make adjustments based on something that's character forward, then I'll add it. But I like using them as a base, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I never build backgrounds.
Nope.
No.
Everybody at my table will mention it during character creation and never
again. Yeah.
I always
right,
forget what my background is.
And I would love to dig into them, but I don't want to be like, hey, we've been playing now for a year. What's your background again?
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah. I feel like background often gets overwhelmed by backstory, right? Everyone
Yeah.
focuses on their backstory, and the background is just a stat block.
Yeah, or sometimes the background prompts what their
Yes,
backstory
sure.
is, and then their backstory overshadows the
Absolutely.
background.
I find that everybody wants to, you should be building your background around your backstory.
Yes.
But it doesn't matter as much as whatever you have in mind for the playable race or
Sure.
the subclass or
Yeah.
whatever. So people pick it based on usually what skill proficiencies they get,
Yep.
and that's it. Have you ever read the feature portion,
Yes, I have.
Megan?
I learned a thing or two today reading some backgrounds. I mean, oh, that's a neat little feature. And it's nothing
No,
game-breaking
it's not.
in any way, shape, or form. But sometimes I'm that would have been neat.
But if you want to do that tiny little bit of min-maxing, oh boy.
It's
do you have
available.
a chance
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And people just overlook it. Even min-maxers seem to overlook it. It is wild.
We complain that this is a combat-heavy system.
Yeah.
And all of the rules are geared towards combat. And then we get the backgrounds, which literally have a massive mechanic built in with the features for role-playing specifically.
Yes.
Yeah.
And nobody ever fucking
No,
looks at them.
no,
right?
they don't touch
So-
them.
Which is insane. Before we get into this, dear Dungeon Masters, go mine your players' backgrounds. There's shit there. All right, before we dig into anything more, let's check out an info break.
We've previously covered quite a bit in our discussion on player options in 5th edition. For all those episodes and more, you can follow or subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and dozens of other podcast apps. If you'd like to support us, you can donate through the website, check out our store, or join our Patreon and get access to other episodes and series. If you'd like to pay for some ad space on It's a Mimic, or just send a shout out to a friend, please reach out to us through our email and website that are listed in the show notes below.
This week on the It's a Mimic podcast, Roman and Megan sit down to discuss what the Five Rings actually mean in Legend of the Five Rings tomorrow. Thursday sees Dave and I travel to Waterdeep for Legend lore to go over the pros and cons of what we find in Dragon Heist, and Friday rounds out the week with another episode of Bring Out Your Undead. But for now, let's get back to the episode. Alright, so when we're talking about backgrounds today, there are, you said 85. I know for a fact there are well over 110.
Oh, yeah.
There are lots that are in the Adventure League stuff and the Plane Shift stuff, and there are some customizable ones that, it's only listed as one of them for Eberron, but I think there's 13 that are changed slightly depending on which house you're in.
That's the thing. I think this is part of its problem is that so many of them overlap or are so indistinguishable from one another that people feel overwhelmed and they just say, screw it, I'm picking Hermit.
Yeah.
Or I'm picking, Dark One or something like that.
They get into a lot of the like setting specific bits and pieces as you dig into those settings. But there are lots of general ones out there, and so I don't know about you guys. I looked at every single one of them. I spent about an afternoon going through them all going, all right, is there one in this book? I found 2. Okay, is there one in this book? Nope. What about this one? Shit, there's 7, right? Like,
yeah.
And there's no rhyme or reason. It's completely random which books you're going to find it in, right?
Yeah.
So most campaign settings will have one, but not all of them.
Yeah.
Most of the,
The adventure
paths will have one, but they don't always do.
No, they don't always. So,
yeah.
Anyway,
all the settings definitely have them, though. That's one spot you can pretty much guarantee yourself to find some.
Yeah. So we're going to mostly look at deconstructing, selecting, and creating backgrounds. But what we're really doing is looking at the existing ones that are out there. And we're going to say, hey, this is a good jumping off point. Think about these as the examples and how to build your own, right? The cardinal rule is do what makes sense for your character within the guidelines. So there's a breakdown of background rules in the player's handbook. Obviously, that's where you find it. And it says essentially that you'll get one feature that you can replace with any other feature. And that's mostly what we're going to be talking about today is the features that you get.
Makes sense.
But you always get 2 skill proficiencies, 2 tool proficiencies, or languages, and some starting equipment. And you can choose to spend some money on gearing up instead, but if you do this, you also forfeit your class-based starting gear. Yes, that means that spellcasters lose whatever focus that they've got.
Yeah.
So it really, really strongly suggests that you just take the starting package.
Yeah.
However, you can mix and match. You can grab from this background to be that background. And that is really how you probably should do it so that you're not forfeiting your
you don't want to give that up.
Yeah. So, like I said, there's features, but we'll talk about those in the future. There's personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws that come with almost every single background that's available. This is part of the character building, the backstory. That's kind of what we meant before. Like, this is where you should be starting your character off. Most people look at it, like I said, for the skills. Whenever I use a background, I go hunting through the personality traits.
I was going to say, this is the piece I always use, is the features, the flaws. That's where I get more out of it than the rest of it.
And if I don't like it, I can change bits and pieces of it. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
But I will take the same kind of general idea or flavor or whatnot. Like, if I want to play a criminal character, I'll look at the criminal ones and say, it's got me 85% of the way there, but it gave me the inspiration to do this, and then I clear it with my DM.
Yeah. The number of characters I've built simply from looking through those charts and saying, hold on a second, I've got an idea for a character that I can build around this one flaw.
So, honestly, what I have to say is, as far as personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws, you choose what feels right for you, the player. And feel free to flip around whatever books you want in order to see example backgrounds. And we're going to give you kind of the list of what those books are here in a minute. But I looked at the skill proficiencies, and I'm like, okay, which ones are actually worthwhile and which ones are garbage pants? Yep. So, for new players, here's kind of the math that I broke down. Remember, it matters most with your gameplay and what's going to be fun for you. If everything's fun and you've played a number of games before, maybe look at, hey, what is our party missing? And then look for that. But again, it's recommended if you double up on skill proficiencies, just change one.
Yeah.
Right? So, anyway. Well, I started looking at it by class first. And immediately I took Bard out of the equation because they can be proficient in fucking everything. So, that also means they can fill in the gaps in the party makeup with their class. So, the background for skill proficiencies doesn't matter as much until you start thinking, oh, I'm going to get expertise later on. So, maybe I want to be a Bard that's just like weirdly fucking good at history. Or weirdly good at medicine or something that they normally wouldn't.
One of the things nobody else in your party is going to have.
Yeah.
It's going to come in clutch.
So when you look at your party makeup, the most popular skills that exist out there are perception, investigation, and insight. You can guarantee that everybody's going to have at least one of those.
You know what?
Probably two.
Investigation, I mean, I guess I'm used to playing with so many people who play charismatic characters. Almost nobody at any of my tables ever has investigation.
All of my characters, not Megan.
Well, you play with
Everybody
Dan.
else
No, I play blind.
has- between
I go in with a strong heart.
Yeah. My parties are always perception is way up there. Investigation, nobody's got it.
Dan, Casey, and Charlie, they know that if they had just rolled better, they would have found the clue.
Yeah.
And it is blown up in their faces enough time that investigation is on the list. Also, no one likes to get duped by an NPC, so insight,
Of course,
right?
yeah.
Then stealth, acrobatics, and athletics. Normally stealth because, of course, but acrobatics and athletics tend to be, well, Megan knows, they're the grapple ones. You want to be good at one of them so you can break a fucking grapple.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Gotta get out.
This is why I move everything into that, so that I'm really stupid, but never grappled.
The other ones that I see less frequently but regularly are Arcana, Intimidation, and Survival. These are ones more so than Persuasion or Medicine or any of the other knowledges out there. These are the ones that people tend to grasp onto. The least popular skills, the ones that I have seen the rarest, have been Medicine, Nature, and Religion. And if they've ended up on someone's skill list, it's because, well, I didn't know what else to take. And I didn't
Yeah,
like
it was
any
in
of the
there.
options, yeah.
And the other options I had were already covered by my race or
Yeah.
by my
Yeah.
background.
So you can be pretty sure that animal handling, history, performance, and sleight of hand will be picked up by specific classes or subclasses, but otherwise they're going to be unpopular as well.
Which makes sense, right? They're very specific to your character.
I will always take animal handling.
It's my
If I can.
third tier.
Yeah.
If it's available by the time I'm doing...
Can't see shit, but that horse is going to be my best friend.
So if I'm going to be doing an online game where I'm in a party and I don't know anybody else, I can be pretty sure which ones they're going to want to play and which ones they're not going to pick up. And maybe having somebody that's good at medicine, animal handling, performance, and sleight of hand, that might just fucking shock people and come in clutch when you least expect it. But then I went and I looked at which one are the rarest skills for a class to pick up. You cannot find performance anywhere except on the Bard and Rogue skill list.
That
Hard
sort of makes
stop.
sense. The only one I would consider giving it to would maybe be the monk.
Hey man, paladins, dude. They're charismatic characters.
Artificer, they've got to build shit.
Yeah. I mean, I guess your cleric too, I guess, if
Yeah.
you're going to go down that way.
Sleight of hand is Artificer, Bard, and Rogue only. And remember, Bard doesn't really count because they get everything, right?
Yeah.
And then Stealth is Ranger, Bard, and Rogue only.
I feel like that kind of fits because sometimes in other role-playing games, those kinds of skills are like frowned upon or forbidden to use.
Again,
unless
monk
you're a
seems
specific
like
class.
a slam dunk for all of those, though, right?
Yes and no, because like a monk, what technically in your brain, what do you use sleight of hand for? Usually for thieving or being sneaky, what have you.
Or
monks have like
performance.
but monks have like a code to not be a twat.
I use sleight of hand as well, just for simply being like dexterous. If you want to be able to handle something well.
I use sleight of hand even for tying knots.
Yeah.
I know
It's
that
survival,
it should be
but-
survival,
Yeah.
but I find that sleight of hand makes just as much sense.
I will give my players the choice on
It's
that one.
dex as opposed to wisdom, which I like, and chances are they don't have a whole lot of points into it, which means their modifier is going to be lower, and that rope is more likely to slip, which makes for interesting encounters.
I love the idea that if you're using sleight of hand to tie a knot, that the only reason it would come undone is because you literally fumbled the bag. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
It
Yeah.
had nothing to do with your knowledge. You
Yeah.
just kind
No,
of
you just screwed it up.
you fluffed it up, guy.
It's not that you didn't know what a knot was, it's just that you couldn't do it.
I could tie my shoes, but for some reason this eluded me.
I also think that stealth should be on Barbarian, because when you think about Conan,
He moving quietly through the bush.
that was his whole fucking deal,
Absolutely.
right?
It's like a
Was-
predator thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you're looking to fill in the blanks and pick up these rare skill proficiencies with a previously built background, you can just grab the Urchin background from the player's handbook and pick up Sleight of Hand and Stealth. So any Urchin, no matter the class, can pick that up. There's an alternative Urchin stat block in Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus that also gives you Sleight of Hand and Stealth. And if you want Performance and Sleight of Hand, you need to pick up Wild Beyond the Witchlight and look at the Witchlight Hand background. If you want both Performance and Stealth, you got to make it yourself.
Yeah.
It's one of the only combinations across some over 100 backgrounds. That does not exist.
That's wild.
Tool proficiencies in languages are really a gamble in 5th edition because we don't run into a lot of languages, and comprehend languages is really cheap and really early.
And tongues too, if you don't go that way. Somebody's probably got tongues or comprehend languages.
Yeah, so there are ways to communicate, and it doesn't take much to find a translator. Most DMs are not going to... I will play puzzles sometimes.
Sure.
We had a great thing with lizard folk.
Yep.
Where nobody could speak lizard folk until Megan's character started to slowly learn it.
I was like, fuck this, I'm going to learn this language.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And so now there's very rudimentary, but like it comes with all their weird custom shit as well. So like it's really fun because they were drawing maps and slabs of meat and shit and then eating the meat afterwards.
Right, so now there goes your map.
Yeah. So
perfect.
So when you look at tool proficiencies, we don't think about what I want to be good at, like being sneaky and stuff. We think about what do you always want to be fucking good at that a tool or a kit is going to give you.
Yeah.
Like I always want to be good at unlocking.
Sure.
Right? Even if you don't have sleight of hand and it calls for sleight of hand, you can say, can I use my thieves tools?
Thieves tools, yeah.
And your DM will say, yeah, sure, go ahead. And you'll still get a bump with that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of your
And
workaround.
then you've got things like brewer supplies and carpentry supplies and mason supplies. Like, sure, they're niche, but there will be an occasion where it'll come in super handy.
And there's not necessarily a single skill that's tied to it, right?
Yeah.
So doesn't matter what you're good at on paper, you're proficient with these tools.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember like when we do skill check things in game, like so when you're trying to move through a combat or move through something really quickly, and instead of doing the actual combat, you do skill checks. Like let's say we did a pirate campaign where the boat was being attacked.
Yep.
And so the goal was to not only have this battle, but also make sure that the ship was being attacked. So how do you do that? You do that with skill checks. Having a carpentry kit
absolutely
will help if you've already used all your other rolls.
Yeah, our artificer came in fucking clutch.
Oh, absolutely, no doubt.
So when it comes to languages, I mean, you pick up Giant when you're in Storm King's Thunder. You pick up Undercommon when you're in the Abyss.
Yeah.
Right? But other than that, look at your party makeup. If you know that you've got a Gith Yankee, you don't need to pick up Gith. If you know there's a Dragonborn, you don't need to pick up Draconic. But
in our pirate campaign, literally everyone except for one player, for some reason, speaks Primordial. Not sure why. We didn't discuss it as a team. Everyone just picked Primordial as their language.
That's happened to us with Giant. But we also had one, I think it's even our current campaign, where for a while no one could speak Elvish for the first time ever in my existence.
We've got a bit of that. We have
campaign.
We have one person who can speak Dwarvish, which normally is the one that most people pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish that languages were based on your intelligence.
Yeah.
Right. For every
Pathfinder style.
Yeah. Well, 3.5 style.
Did 3.5 do as well? There you go.
So when it comes to starting equipment and gear and whatnot, make sure you pick up the necessary adventure gear, instruments, gaming sets, kits, tools, pets, or mounts. And these will get listed with your background, right?
Yeah.
But pick up the ones that are essential to your character's story and purpose. If it goes beyond the norm, talk to your DM and see if you can get special permission to just have your ancestral this or your family that. Or whatever.
As a DM, I rarely say no unless you're clearly trying to metagame me or power game me.
Yeah. I'm not going to say yes to your +3 sword or whatever. But if you want a lantern because your guy doesn't have dark vision, and you're the only one in the group,
of course I'm.
And I'm afraid of the dark.
Yeah, and
give that bitch a lamp.
I'm a far traveler, so I've been moving throughout the wilderness for years.
Now, depend on your setting. Do not give your players a spyglass. It seems innocuous. That thing's worth 1,000 damn gold pieces.
Yeah, they'll cash
and they
it
will
in.
try and sell it. I had a player just do that to me last session. He's like, they were just shopping in town. I said, you know what? I'm not gonna. Don't worry about counting gold. If you're picking up just common supplies, just take them. I don't care.
Yeah.
He's like, can I get a spyglass? I went, hell no, you can't have a spyglass. I know what it's worth.
I think it would have been hilarious if you just said yes, and if you tried to sell it, you'd have the person like tap it and be like, I'm sorry, but the lens is made of plastic.
Yeah. You
This
never
is
even tried to
useless."
use it.
Yeah.
No, I really like the idea of the spyglass being. You've seen Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves with
Yes,
Kevin
of course.
Costner?
Yeah.
Right, where Morgan Freeman looks through the spyglass and Kevin Costner, Robin has never seen this before,
Yeah.
right? And it's not technically wizardry. You can cast Identify on it. There's nothing there.
It's
You
not
can
magical.
just see distance. I nope, this is witchcraft. And we break it. Now no one has it.
Yeah.
Don't try to sell your spyglass.
Yeah. Perfect.
So that's kind of a breakdown of what a background has to offer and kind of where you should be looking at it, but it seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
However, some of them get really niche and really specific and they're all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, so let's talk a little bit about where to find them then. Because we kind of talked about how to make them, where they come from, so on and so what have you. But where can you find these guys? So if you're going to use backgrounds to mix and match a specific one for yourself, or you're looking for templates and ideas, there are a lot of places to find backgrounds. So obviously, the first and foremost, Player's Handbook has the basics. There are 13 basic backgrounds in the PHB, but some also have variants, which people don't kind of notice. Like, if you're flipping through, you're like, oh, there's only, like, it doesn't seem like a lot.
There's like a dozen or something like that in the base Player's Handbook.
There's 13, but there's actually like 18 or 19.
Yeah, when you actually
break it down, right? Because, like, for criminal, there's the variant for being a spy. For being an entertainer, there's an option for being a gladiator, which it's amazing and hilarious. For guild artisan, it also includes info for being guild merchants. And for nobles, you can specify if you're a knight. And there's also special options if you want to have up to 3 NPCs be loyal to you when you're a noble. Or I think it's specific to knight, or is it for noble? Well, noble is the background. Yeah. For knight, and then you have 3 NPCs.
Yeah. So depending on how intense you want to get with it.
Yeah, which I think is, like, for a more experienced player, that can be a lot of fun, right? Because it's very easy to, like, for those who are experienced to build NPCs for the character to, like, be...
I wish I could credit who it was. Who, you probably know. Who invented the I know a guy rule? Was that Brennan?
I want to say yes.
I feel like it came from the internet.
It came from the internet.
We use it in L5R2.
Yeah, but I think it was one of Brennan's rules. Was the first place I encountered it.
There are so many features that are simply just a guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So.
But the way that he actually flushed them out as like a feature
instead of hero points.
Exactly.
You get another guy every so often.
Exactly. Yeah. You can say, hey, I know a guy. And then the DM will come up with somebody on the spot, and they won't necessarily be exactly what you want, because as a player, you should not be creating that I know a guy. That can screw over a campaign, but your DM can say, okay, I understand and what you want from that know a guy. I'm just saying, this will fit perfectly.
I feel like it also just offers a boon to your players when you do it that way, too. Because, like, it's kind of like, okay, if you're creative enough to think about a guy that you know and why you know him, congratulations,
absolutely.
Yes, you can have that.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, the biggest differences here between having a regular, one of the regular 13 or one of the variances is obvious that the features change with each one, but we'll kind of touch on that a little bit later because we're going to talk about some of the ones that are in the normal book. Also, you can find in Baldur's Gate, Descent into Avernus, also has a variant option for each of these basic backgrounds, but they're based on growing up in Baldur's Gate and being a part of that dangerous, like, seedy city. So, and I find that happens a lot with the modules, the backgrounds that come with them, is they're hyper-specific to the world that you're in.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
They're mechanically identical except for the features.
Yeah.
It's same with the source book materials as well. They're very similar. Not always. We'll probably get to this, but... They're specific. But they're specific to the setting, right?
But Baldur's Gate literally lists out Acolyte, Criminal, Charlatan, all that shit again.
Yes.
Right, where the other ones have different names.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, so like for instance, there are quite a few in the Sword Coast Adventures Guide, but they're largely expansions on the themes that you find in the Player's Handbook. There's a new kind of like for instance, there's a new kind of Acolyte, Knight, Noble, and Artisan, as well as a Courtier, Scholar, Mercenary, and Uthgard tribe member.
Uthgard.
Yeah.
It's
Get roll with it.
Yeah, it's so strange that that's the one they wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely wild. I guess they're trying to pull from the whole Sword Coast, and they're like, hey, what's right next to the Sword Coast?
Well, there's one that's the noble is specific to a place as well. But
Waterdavian.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to the ones that are kind of interesting to point out are the two kinds of City Watch members. The Far Traveler, the Inheritor, and the Urban Bounty Hunter.
Inheritor has always been the one that's most grasped me that I haven't touched yet.
Yeah.
It's also the most broken because you get some special shit with it.
You do.
Yeah.
But you can, like, I want to play with a DM who I can really flush that out with. I want to make a Warlock who's an Inheritor.
My favorite
one
from Sword Coast Adventures Guide is Far Traveler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you always have the one player that's like, oh, and I'm a Genasi in this land of elves and dwarves. And I'm like, all right.
Sure
Far
you are.
Traveler.
Yeah.
That's the one. Far Traveler Outlander. This is how you do it.
You are not from here. Other than that, of course, Planescape, Spelljammer, which I know you love, Brad.
I love Spelljammer.
Dragonlance, Strixhaven, Ravnica, and Eberron each have a short list of setting-specific backgrounds. So as we spoke to that before, hyper specific to what the area they come from. So when you want to take one of these, confirm with your DM that it will work, right?
Yeah.
These are the ones that when I look at them and I read them, I'm like, this would be really nice, but I'm going to switch it to fit the world slightly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm at least going to rename the proper nouns.
Right?
Sure.
So to go through a few of them, that being said, Eberron and Ravnica have 13 and 10 respectively, and they're incredibly flavorful and worth digging into for inspiration. In Eberron, they're tied to your house, and in Ravnica, they're tied to your guild, which we spoke to earlier.
Yeah.
Planescape also has different customizabilities based on the faction that you're in. So, again, very specific to the area.
You also, is it Ravnica gives you dwarven marks as well for specific dwarven houses?
It's dragon marks for specific dragon houses in Eberron.
Which one has the dwarf? There's a dwarven one as well, is there not?
Not that I'm
Am I drawing a blank? Am I getting my things mixed up?
I think you might be looking at a Pathfinder.
No, it was in 5e because it was like mark
You're
of
in a different game.
No, mark of warding and things like that.
That's Eberron, and
that's Eberron.
Yeah,
those are dragon marks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought they were.
No, they're not dwarven.
There you go. I have not dug enough into Eberron. That's a Dave thing.
Oh, Lord. Well, to go on further, so be aware that in both Ravnica and Strixhaven, you do get additional spells to add to your spell list. If you're a spellcaster, even a half and half, like a paladin, eldritch knight, or a warlock, or like an arcane trickster, there's probably something here for you as a player. Remember that, again, get DM approval first, because sometimes those spells can like add a little bit too much to your character. Yeah. And as if Strixhaven backgrounds aren't powerful enough, characters also get a bonus feat called Strixhaven Initiate, which adds even more spells. So...
Well, it's based on a wizarding school.
Yeah.
Everyone's supposed to have
yeah,
spells.
it kind of makes sense, right?
But I'm very rarely going to let someone
unless we're playing in Strixhaven, I'm just going to be like, nah. Unless, or, you know what, if you can give me a damn good reason, if you were in Harry Potter's wizarding school or something like that, give me a damn good reason.
Which Charlie is, technically.
Charlie's from Strixhaven in our campaign, so I let him take this.
Of course.
Yeah.
And it's expanded his spell list quite a bit. But that's because he was a sorcerer pretending to be a wizard.
Yeah.
Right.
So he needed a bigger spell list.
Yeah.
So he was running around kind of faking it. And his spellcasting focus was a book, but it was blank.
Right. An empty book. Fantastic.
Yeah. So I allowed that, and then made a point to just look at all the other spellcasters and go, and you get a couple extra spells, and hey, you found a way to cast this. Here's a wand for that.
Sure.
Just to balance the rest of it all out.
Yeah.
So
I just hit stuff with my fists.
sometimes you throw swords.
I do, because sometimes I'm not close enough and I don't care.
Sometimes the bard throws you.
Heyo! All right, well, that being said, talking about those extra bonuses, they're not the only books that will give you those extra bonus feats, such as Dragonlance, Planescape, and Spelljammer. Backgrounds also get feats. But they're very specific and actually replace the feature, so it's not as versatile as you might think that it would be. So don't go picking up these books just for the backgrounds themselves.
But do pick up those books because they're fantastic books.
Some of them.
Well, yeah. Planescape.
The problem is Planescape and Spelljammer are so expensive.
Yeah.
Right? So...
Yeah.
Unless you're...
I forgot about the sunk cost of Spelljammer because I love it enough that I spent that tax. But yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's a great book, though.
Well, my favorite, so Bigby's presents a glory of the... I can't want to say Bigsby.
Bixby's.
Bixby's.
I know. Again, my friend's cat's name is Bigsby, so it's... All right, well, in my favorite book, Bigby Presents Glory of the Giants, and, of course, the Book of Many Things, they do have two backgrounds, both of them giving you feats, but again, they replace your feature. Bigby only lets you have one of the feats related to giants, but the Book of Many Things has backgrounds that are a bit more involved in your backstory and let you choose from a short list of feats. I mean, I agree and disagree with that. Some of the giants' backgrounds that you get are broken as fuck.
They're broken, but you only get the one as part of
That's
the
all
background.
you get.
But it's just
you lose your feature. The feature is you get this feat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's it.
No,
it's a decent trade-off.
In the D&D game that I played, Roman took the rune caster.
Oh,
yeah.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Is it fucking up my shit?
Anti-magic fields are your best friend.
Oh no, they're coming. All right. On top of that, Acquisitions Incorporated has 5 backgrounds, and some of them are actually pretty cool, like Failed Merchant, Gambler, Celebrity, Adventurer, Scion, which sounds pretty interesting.
Adam and I did an episode on this book, and that was the first time I came across these backgrounds and went, holy crap, I need to play with these.
I love Failed Merchant. That one just sounds like a lot of fun.
There's so much really cool flavor in it, and it's set in the Forgotten Realms.
Yes, it is.
Anyone can pick this up and apply it.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Another plug for a slept-on book.
Yeah.
There you go. In Ghosts of Saltmarsh, they have 4 water-related backgrounds, including Smuggler and Marine. Other than that, you start to get into like more specific use case backgrounds, like the anthropologist or the archaeologist from the Tomb of Annihilation, or like the athlete from Theros, which I think is pretty cool.
I'm surprised that Gladiator wasn't
Gladiator. Because Gladiator already existed, I guess, before Theros came out.
Yeah.
I feel like you can have like Arena Gladiator, like another variant. You know what I mean? But then again, I guess the Gladiator that we currently have does say like in arena fighting you get extra, right? So that makes sense. Damn it! And the Feylost and the Witchlight hand from the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which tie you loosely to the Feywild to a tightly like it's like a carnival base, right?
Yeah. Another episode that we did together, Adam and I. Great book review for a great book.
Yeah, that's one that I would like to be a player in.
Me too.
It's the same conversation we had, right? No one wants to run it, everybody wants to play it.
I might pick. Do you have the Witchlight book?
Yeah, it's right. It's behind me.
I might borrow it because I kind of because reading through these, I started reading the background and I was like, interesting. So I started reading a little bit more about it. I'm like, I kind of enjoy this. So.
Yeah, the story, like the actual campaign arc in that book is wild.
Yeah.
And I've read too much of it. I probably have to run it now because I've read it enough.
Yeah, me too.
But boy, would it be fun.
Curses this podcast.
Boy, would it be fun.
All right, well, moving on. We kind of mentioned before that there are a couple of City Watch options in Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, and one of them is an investigator. There's another investigator that's closer to the Private Eye in the Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. And speaking of that, also in Ravenloft is the Haunted One, which is a background that also appears in the Curse of Strahd. So it's neat that they kind of share them.
Yeah.
The one that everybody takes.
Well, I mean, it's popular amongst the edgy characters, like your rogues and your warlocks and your what have you.
And your Charlies.
I was gonna call Charlie out again, but I feel like I already did today, so I need to like. All right, and finally, I should point out that there are 20 more backgrounds that are available through the Adventure League and the Plane Shift materials, but they're rare.
Specific to Adventures League.
Yeah, definitely flavored and, specifically to that.
You're going to have to hunt those down on purpose.
Yeah.
And, again, flavorful, but they're so tied to the campaign. Yeah. Even more so than the Eberron one. These ones are like, hey, when you start off out of the Abyss, this is one of the 3 things to do. If you're going to be a refugee slave from that has been captured by the Drow.
Yeah.
Like, it's so specific. Are you really going to go hunting for that?
No, it's specific to the campaign. Why would you?
Yeah.
So I got some questions. Let's grab dice.
Let's finally roll some dice.
Sure. I got an 8.
I'm talking to myself with a 19.
I got 3. I go in last.
So, so far, how do we feel about backgrounds of 5th edition? I like them. They're underutilized at tables, and most people sleep on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like it's that thing that kind of kicks off the background of your character, kind of gives you some inspiration, but from there you forget you have it. So again, underutilized, but it's an extra thing that your DM has to, and if I'm DMing, I have to pay attention to, right? Whereas I'm going to take from your backstory, I'm not necessarily going to take from the features of your background.
Yeah.
Which I think is going to be the moral of this entire episode, is that DMs are sleeping on this.
Yeah.
What a fucking tool to have.
And like players are too, because like even when I was going through it, each one of the backgrounds, of course, have pips for like character personality traits and how to play your character, like specific background things you can take. And I find that a lot of first-time players struggle with how do I play my character? Read your goddamn background.
Yep.
And take experience, take inspiration from that, and then utilize it as a player.
I wholly use them as inspiration points. This is where I start. In fact, before I pick my race, before I pick my class, this is where I go first.
I like it because we are going to see that shift of mentality. This is going to be the initial character building thing in the next edition of D&D.
Which makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I understand it's a game, mechanics, people care about their class.
But okay, so the idea moving forward, for those of you that don't know, although I've said it a handful of times on the podcast already, instead of races, we're going to go with species, and they're gutting all of the shit out of that and putting all of those stat bonuses and stuff directly into your background. Even the languages you speak will no longer be Elven because you are an elf. It will be, where did you grow up?
Yeah.
What's the part of your background? These are maybe the available languages for you.
Yeah.
So the race is going to get changed to species, so it's not a racist thing. However, they're really neutering that to beef up backgrounds. Yeah. Backgrounds then are going to be like building for an archetype, like we do in the campaign builder, where we're not building for a specific class. We're looking at we're up to 6 archetypes now, but like a criminal, a
Who
warrior,
is this person?
right, an outdoorsman, like a diplomat.
Yeah.
These are the places where you should start your build.
What is driving this character?
So, do we like this?
Yes.
That's how I already do it, so yes, I love it.
Well, it just makes sense, because sometimes, again, you're playing an elven character who is not around elves their entire life. Why would they know how to speak elven just because they're inherently an elf?
Blah, 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 Magic Coralon
100%.
tends to be the stock answer,
Sure.
but I don't like that.
But I feel like it fits better, and it makes you think about your character building a little bit more.
Yeah, for everyone who loves to play the orphan that was raised by foreigners, why would you speak your native tongue if you never grew up around it?
I just imagine that hilarious, like, again, that moment of, like, you go to a group of elves and you have that one elf in your party and they're like...
Everyone looks at you like...
can you speak this language? You're like, dude, no, I was born in Chicago.
I speak Orc. I speak Orc.
I speak Orc and Giant for some reason.
Chikorko.
Chikorkian.
So...
How big is that bean?
If you had to pick up another book after the Player's Handbook, buying it solely for the backgrounds in it, which one would you buy?
You're first, Adam. Which
For me... This is going to shock people because I'm on record as fucking hating this book, Sword Coast Adventures Guide.
Yep.
It just has the most, doesn't it?
It has a lot, and they're actually pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
Right? Even the ones that are just a variant on the other stuff, the features listed there, neat.
It does a good job of taking the existing ones and actually making them feel lived in.
Yeah.
It flushes them out so well.
That's fair. And, like, to be honest, at the end of the day, I agree. The more, the better, because you have a little bit more to play with. But, like, Bigby the Giant's book was, like, the first one that I, like, read. And I like these backgrounds. I may use them.
They're so powerful. It's the power creep of 5th edition.
Yeah.
Is on display in Bigby's.
Yeah. And I think that's why it was the first time I, like, have read a background in another book and been, I'll take that.
So you said Skag, which would have been my answer, but because we already discussed it, I'm going to bring up Acquisitions Incorporated again. You want some fun ideas for how to actually build a quirkier character?
One of them is Rival Intern.
Yes, Rival
really
Intern
funny.
is delightful.
Yeah. I gotta say, though, don't sleep on Eberron, Ravnica, or...
The thing that bugs me with those ones is they are somewhat setting specific. You can pull stuff out of them. They aren't... But, like, the naming conventions are so tied to their setting.
Yeah, but again, I'm just changing proper nouns.
Sure.
It's fine. There are, especially in Ravnica, you have 10 different options for different kinds of guilds.
Guilds, yeah.
And the background that comes with it, although it is going to be tied to a guild. But if I'm playing guild stuff, I'm going to be buying this book anyway, so here we are.
That's fair.
Does this redeem Sword Coast Adventures Guide a little?
Yes.
Sure.
I didn't think we were hating on it. Are we hating on it?
Oh, yeah.
It gives us the worst subclasses.
Fair.
Yeah.
It gives us just the most general, basic lore that you would be able to find with a quick Google search.
Sure.
The artwork is relatively uninspired. It's not particularly well written and put together. It's
well,
dull.
I've never bought it, so I don't know.
It was basically a quick product that they put out early in the life cycle, and there wasn't a lot of books competing, and they just wanted to move product.
Oh, you mean every book they've ever released in the last 5 years? Great.
Well,
worse than most.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this might be in the bottom 3 books of 5th edition.
Heyo.
So, yes, it redeems it a little. Not enough.
Not enough.
I will not be
It
recommending
is still not
this
worth
book.
the price of admission. So if you really want to do this, the best way to do it is on D&D Beyond. You can go in and you can buy specifically the subclass section for like $4.
You can buy specific pieces now, which I think is nice.
That's worth doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The rest of the book, don't waste a dime on it.
Yeah. All right. So that brings us to features. Now, we're going to focus primarily on the player's handbook for the most part till we get to the end here. But I want to talk really quickly about examples because the features are the thing where that's the real winner. Yes, everybody understands how spell proficiencies work. Nobody's ever going to figure out how tool proficiencies work. And languages and starting set, like your gaming dice and your pet mouse, they're not going to fucking
half the stuff
matter.
you're never going to remember you have them.
Right. Your personality trait, your flaws, bonds, and all of that's going to be great for tier 1, and then you're just going to know your character at that point and be able to move on. So let's look at the features, because these are things that could consistently affect the campaign from the very first session to the very last one, right?
Absolutely.
If you have spoken to your DM and the DMs know what's out there and they're able to kind of weave it in. So we have broken up all of the player's handbook ones, plus a couple others, into little sections. So let's grab dice and roll initiative, and then we can talk about them.
Okay. I got
Oh.
a 3.
You had a 19. I knocked you to the
did.
3, and I got an 18 myself. You've got a 16, Adam. So I guess I'm going first.
Brad.
So my first one on the docket is the Sage. The feature specific to the Sage is called Researcher. I could read it out, but I'd rather put it in my own words to make it a little more clear on what it actually does.
Sure.
But basically, you can use this feature to pull in your memory and recall some piece of lore or history from the world. Okay?
I've watched Dan try to do this so many fucking times, and he never has a reason to do it because he
Yes.
doesn't have the Sage background.
Yeah.
He has a Witchlight hand background, which doesn't...
No, it doesn't
Many
help
of
in this
us.
case.
No.
You're not going to have that. Like, players love to know the history. Give me a history check, great. But in this case, you can actually have them try and pull from memory. And if you can justify why they might know this, your DM can basically choose how much of that information they'll reveal to you from the setting.
My favorite thing to do is to literally... Because it's normally about a monster. Do I know what this thing is? And I will say, reasonably, roll a history check
Sure,
or something
Mm-hmm.
with advantage because of the Sage background. Or
Yep.
whatnot. Depending on how well they roll, I will give them vague information. They roll a 2, I will give them wrong information.
Yes.
Right? But it does open that conversation up,
Yeah.
which is really cool.
It's the same thing I do when make investigation checks. I'll give false information. Basically pull that same thing here, right?
Yeah,
You're investigating your own mind.
sure.
What do you remember?
Yeah.
Roll for it.
That's fair.
In your mind palace?
And you bet every time they're making a history check, they're making with advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair.
Within reason, of course, right? There's going to be some cases where it's just like, there's no way in hell you would know this. But,
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's a religion check or
Yeah,
it's a knowledge check or a nature check,
yeah.
right?
But it's going to be intelligence-based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So mine is for the noble.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not going to go over the knight or the other variant about the retainers that you get, the 3 NPCs.
Yeah.
The standard noble just gets what's called the position of privilege.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Due to being a born noble, people just think that you're pretty fucking great.
Yeah.
You can easily move throughout high society, and everyone makes the assumption that wherever you are, you're supposed to be there. Which is kind of like the rule of wear a Visivest and carry a ladder, and you can
Absolutely
get
get
anywhere.
it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The common folk will try to keep you happy, and other nobles will treat you as an equal.
Yep.
You have the ability to meet and do business with other nobles.
Mm-hmm.
So this opens doors. This lets you in places that normally you wouldn't be able to get just because you're fucking fancy.
Yeah.
You deserve to be there. You're better than the rest.
You're so
Yeah.
fancy pants. You are more important than I am.
And because you've been brought up that way, it's in your like posture and mannerisms, and everyone else just believes it.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you believe it. You're
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
I get everything that I want.
Very
and I'm
much so.
super special.
Yeah, there's no imposter syndrome with this guy
Yep.
No.
at all. So
No.
that's
Yeah, you're not
really-
acting.
No, that's really useful.
Yes.
That is so useful if you're anywhere near a city.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I have Acolyte, which for their feature they get Shelter of the Faithful, and I feel like Acolyte speaks for itself for anyone who's never had it. It's basically you lived in a church.
Yep.
But the Shelter of the Faithful basically means that anytime you go into a town when there is a church of your faith, you are welcome there. You can come in. You can even perform religious ceremonies there. Your team can expect getting heals from the group that's there. It does say as long as you can provide the material components to make it happen.
Yes.
But those who share your religion will support you, right? So I think as a DM, that's kind of a good thing to put in there. If you've got a character who has this in their background, putting a church somewhere where they can
Specifically to the deity that
kind
they've
of show
chosen.
their niceness, go for it. Because that being said, if you have specific ties to a specific deity, you can take up residence in those temples freely if you want to as well with this feat.
I would also let that happen for like pantheon adjacent
Absolutely,
deities
yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So like as long as you're not praying to the wrong gods,
Yeah.
you should be
You know,
covered to a degree.
You're not praying to the evil gods and trying to step into the Church of Lathander or something.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, and then to finish that off, like the priest of that temple will also assist you with anything that you need, as long as it's not hazardous to them or the church itself.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Very similar to the noble background in
Yeah.
a sense. Just it's
You
who's-
belong there.
But who's the crowd that you hang out with?
Yeah.
Both of those are I know a guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's very true.
My next one I've got is one that everybody plays as, but nobody takes the background for. It's the Charlatan,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's probably the most used background without actually being used.
Yeah.
The Charlatan, basically, you automatically get, this is great, a second identity. You have all the passports, you have all the information, you have contacts. Everybody knows you as this second person,
Yeah.
right? How many people want to play with a mysterious background? But the other thing that you get with this, the second part of the feature, is that you can just straight up forge documents. As long as you have seen the document type or seen somebody's handwriting.
I've seen that come in handy in so many
Oh, so many
campaigns.
yeah.
Yeah.
But nobody actually takes this background.
It's also the
kinda
thing that shows up in tier 3.
Yeah.
So like when you choose this at level 1, that you're playing
You're playing the long
con.
game.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So my next one is the Guild Artisan.
Mm-hmm.
This one comes with guild membership, and that's the name of the feature as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many players that should choose this because it fucking opened doors. You are established and respected within your own guild, and that comes with fucking perks. You get free room and board from other guild members, and the guild will cover the costs of your inevitable funeral. If there is a guild hall in town, you have access to it, and this gives you access to other people of your profession, allies, patrons, and even people for hire.
Yeah.
Most guilds have significant political power, and that means if you are accused of a crime that either you're probably innocent of, or the crime is somewhat justifiable because it was an unjust law, then the guild will back you and pay for your legal fees. I mentioned patrons a second ago, and there are definitely patrons within the guild, but if you are popular and upstanding as a member of the guild, you might get access to political figures outside the guild who may want to support and fund you or the guild itself, which will put you in even better standing with them. This support can be money or magical items.
Yeah.
Also,
Dope.
you owe 5 gold pieces to the guild every month as part of your membership. But if you miss a month, if you're off adventuring, if you're second the Underdark, whatever, it's not the end of the world. Just be prepared to pay that shit
You
back.
gotta make a
as
back
soon as-
payment next time you're in town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You've been on the road for 6 months. Congratulations, you owe 6 months worth back.
Exactly. That's what that means.
I've
So-
actually used this background.
Have you?
Yeah,
I think it would be
have.
hilarious that like you don't have the money, so
Yeah.
you don't go into town.
Yes.
Because you're scared you're gonna be found out that you don't have the money. To
Or
pay.
you're gonna have to put in some work to pay off your.
I'm gonna be camping that
That's right.
outside
Yeah.
the gates
Yeah.
today.
I unfortunately never got to get this one to pay off properly. I had it set up, but that was for the clear cut campaign actually.
Oh yeah.
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 Well, what happened with that one?
Apparently somebody just like team killed all the other players. It was.
Was that you, Adam?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
did.
that was-
There's also actually in this section under Guild Artisan, there's a D20 list of guild businesses.
Yeah.
These are a great place for dungeon masters to go to look if you're going to populate a city with businesses and stuff.
Yeah.
Great list, just buried in the player's handbook.
Love it. Is it me?
It is.
is.
you.
It's my turn. Okay, so I got entertainer, which is exactly as it sounds. You entertain people for a living. But the features that it gives you is that you have to pick an entertainer routine. So they do give you a list that you can choose from. But I feel like as a DM, you can kind of like retcon and choose and help them choose something that fits their background. Because the things they give you are like actor, dancer,
Juggler,
jester, like storyteller,
Yeah.
what have you, right? So
prostitute,
yeah, you can just do whatever you want, right? Whatever's entertaining.
stripper.
It's called an escort.
Oh, escort. My apologies.
Yeah.
You got escort missions.
The worst kind of missions.
Oh Lord.
A
The
lot
other
of grinding.
Different kind of perks.
different kind of grinding.
I'm grinding for experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad that went through.
I'm an entertainer.
I thought I was just gonna slip by.
Not on this crew. The other option you get, other feature you get is by popular demand. So basically, of course, when you go into a city or a town or a tavern, if you perform every night in a specific place, they will give you lodging, free food, and modest accommodation. So if you're looking for a tavern, you don't want to spend your gold, and you've got someone who's an entertainer in your group, this is something that you can definitely utilize to not have to utilize that resource.
Again, lots of I know a guy. I can get
Absolutely.
free room and board. I can get in and talk to people.
Yeah.
Well, I know some other musicians who've been on the road a lot. We can probably get some information because they've probably been in that town that we're going to.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like the more you perform in an area, the more popular you become. And so other people will take a positive reaction to you when you're walking through the town. So that's very helpful.
I happened to stumble upon this just, I don't know why. I was looking into backgrounds, but have you noticed that this is what Dan's character's going through?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's our local bard and he did a number of shows, rolled really well in his performance checks. So I have been mining this, even though it's not his background.
Right.
I have been mining this for plot points.
Sure. Makes sense. Is this one that also includes puppeteer?
Not in its list specifically, no.
Okay. I feel like there's one of the books that covers like a puppeteer being in town.
I think that
Book that we
is,
did.
I think that's the Witchlight.
It is. You're right. It's the start of Witchlight.
Yeah.
Before you go to the carnival. That's
Yeah.
right. I think I'm up next. My next one is Hermit. I hate this background.
How dare you?
One, because everybody takes it. Two,
It's
because as a DM, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. The feature for
I'm a lot of work for people.
the feature for the Hermit
Yes.
is called Discovery. And basically, you're going to know some unknown secret because of the time that you have spent alone, on your own, thinking about things. It might be cosmic in origin. It might be arcane in origin. It might be natural in origin. But you know a secret. I know something you don't. I spent time by myself. I unlocked a secret of the universe. And that is...
The government is hiding cameras in your cereal.
Exactly.
Whether it's true or not.
Yeah.
Birds aren't real. Birds aren't real.
I totally did, because one of my players took Urchin as their background for their character, and I gave them a true secret. And I'm like, I should have given them a fake secret.
Oh, you mean
So
Hermit?
totally-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so,
Hermit, yeah.
Yeah. I understand why people like it. Just as a DM, don't do this to me, please. I'm not that kind of DM. Adam, give it to Adam. Give Hermit and Adam's
Oh, I
campaign.
will. 100%.
Yeah. Then the secret you know is that dragons aren't real. They're flying machines with illusion cast on them.
They're made of metal.
Yeah.
They're actually birds that just had an enlarged cast on them.
Kill the bird.
Have you ever met a dwarf? No, you haven't. What's a fat halfling?
Oh, that can get real dark.
Except it has to be true. That's the thing. You unlocked the secret of the universe. So no one else is going to believe you, but it is true.
Well, it could be a secret of someone else's universe.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's a great way as a DM to hide something in the campaign.
Yeah.
And this crazy guy knows it, but nobody's going to believe him anywhere he goes. It's like Dan's campaign. It's a flat plane. I am convinced that his world is round.
You just need to get to the
And
edge
so
and jump.
everywhere I go, I say it's not round. You just got to go over the edge and you just curve. We haven't gotten the edge yet.
No. My next one is The Criminal.
Yeah.
And this feature is called a criminal contact. You have a contact. It's literally, you know a guy. You have a contact with the seedy underworld of crime.
Yeah.
Even if he, she, or they is far away, you can quickly get messages to them because you know messengers, bribable leaders of caravans, and outlaw sailors to be able to get them messages, and they can hook you up with other criminals.
Yeah.
You know that ancestral sword that glows and it's full of demon souls and you can't get rid of it because no one will buy it?
I know a guy.
Yeah, I know a guy.
I know a guy.
I have a criminal contact. It'll take 2 weeks for him to get here, but we can deal with it.
Yeah, I'll
I
figure
know
it
a
out.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. Like,
I'll
the
send it
criminal
out.
one's pretty straightforward.
My next one is Urchin, which is pretty straightforward as well. You were born into a city where you're a street rat. Thanks, Aladdin. But basically, your feature is that you have city secrets. So you know your city that you live in. You know its patterns. You know who goes where. It's kind of like the whole process where, like, you know everyone's day to day in my mind as well. So you know that the baker puts out his dozen buns in the morning at 9 a.m. Like, you know the whole kit and caboodle. In fact, your kit comes with a city map as well. So you know
nice.
where everything is.
It's kind of funny because the Urchin, you just think it's in their head.
Yeah, although I'm sure that they've written down certain specific notes over time.
I would almost run it in like I would have that map be written in an equivalent to Thieves' Camp.
Yeah, so only they, or like in something that they
Them and the other urchins, right?
Yeah. So
I always like to pull from Sherlock's urchins when I try and do an urchin background or
the
the city.
the little birds from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
one of the other pieces that you get is because you know where everything is, you can travel between any two locations faster than, like, twice as fast that it would normally take you to, because you know the streets and the secrets and the under caverns, and you can take your group with you as long as you're leading. So that's a great way to kind of like make them the spotlight for an episode, is to be like, we need to get to this side of the city, how do we get there? Be like, don't worry, I can get you there in like half an hour.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Really useful for like evacuations and escape routes. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're not
Or,
wrong.
you know, your rogue stole something again and you need to hide in the sewers from the guard
You need to
for a
run
bit.
really, really fucking fast.
Shit. Yeah. Or you have a
You need a spot to lie low.
Yeah, I would be like, I feel like one of those locations would be your safe house.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an abandoned house that you know is...
Yeah.
My next one is Soldier. It's fairly self-explanatory. Its feature is military rank. So if you go anywhere and you encounter your own army, I may even say if you encounter an opposing force who abides by laws of war and you state your rank, they will treat you accordingly, is effectively the shorthand of what this is. Right? You can pull rank.
Yeah.
You walk into an army camp and you say, if you're a lieutenant, everybody under you is going to answer to you. I don't do military structure. We need Terry for that sort of shit.
Yeah,
But-
I like the idea too. Like, you guys get captured by the enemy orcs and whatnot, and everybody
Yeah.
gets the bag over their head and tied to a stake out around
But
the
not the
campfire.
soldier.
But the soldier, he gets tied to a chair inside with by the warm fire, but like it's going to be treated different.
But he's also going to have some information possibly, so they're probably also going to want to extract information.
Yeah, they are going to chop off his ears if he doesn't fucking tell them. But
you do also gain access, if you are in a military camp, you'll have access to the military supplies according to your station. So if you need a horse, or you need some food, you need some resupply of... Yeah, there's a theme here. But it also will give you access if there's a military fort in the middle of nowhere. You are able to identify yourself as a soldier and bring your crew in.
Love it.
that's really fucking useful, actually.
Really useful.
Especially when you're dealing with, like, spelljamming campaigns and pirate campaigns and, like... You can pull
it can backfire on you, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, which I think is not going to be utilized enough.
No.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
My next one is the folk hero, which is kind of the opposite of soldier, but it's also a known guy. This one's called Rustic Hospitality. Because you come from humble beginnings and the local commoners know of your deeds, you can find places to lay low and recover among the common folk, and you can blend in easily with them.
Yeah.
The commoners who know of you will protect you from anyone who's looking for you, including law enforcement. Just remember, they're not willing to risk their lives for you, and if you are likely to be in a danger to their livelihoods, they're not going to help you. So, as long as it's convenient, they like you, but they're not going to risk their kids and home.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yep. This one is great because as opposed to nobility or soldier or whatnot, there's common people everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as long as you're locally famous, you ought to be okay.
My next one is Sailor, which did come with a variant which we talked about briefly, which is the pirate, but we're not really going to talk about that one as a whole, but the feature is the same. Basically, you have ship's passage, which means that you can get free passage with your group on any ship that you want to find with your companions, as well as basically how long it's going to take you to get somewhere. Like, you can figure that out. And so it just makes fast travel easy. So again, it's the I know a guy.
Yeah.
Hey, we need to get to this side of the ocean. Great. I know this ship's crew. I can do that thing for you. And this is kind of like boating the fact that you are a positive influence in the world because people enjoy you as a crewmate or what have you. There is an alternative bad reputation. So if you don't want to take...
That's the pirate?
That's the pirate one, technically. So you actually have a bad reputation no matter where you go because of it.
That sounds like every D&D party.
Yeah.
After about the third session.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Next one on my list is Far Traveler, which I had to, as we were waiting here, download the book because it's the one book that I obviously don't keep on my phone.
Yeah, right. Sarkos Adventures Guide.
Yeah. And, Far Traveler, however, we discussed how these are kind of the most interesting part of the book. Far Traveler, you mentioned earlier for the Genasi. Yeah, that's exactly what it fits in for. You are basically a sideshow piece. You are not from here. Your type are not around. You're not very common. So you're going to draw some ire, some awkward looks. You might be treated poorly. But the chances are, if you run into some scholars or some nobles, someone who's going to see you as, an antiquity, you're going to get some attention. You might be able to even use that to your advantage to get some money or some information. Right? You have something to leverage. I have some amazing knowledge from a far-off land that you can share.
That could be really flavorful and useful, especially when you're getting into, you're the only spelljammer race in a Forgotten Realms campaign, or you're doing Curse of Strahd where it's all humans and a couple of vampires and elves and stuff, and then a fucking Furbolg walks in with the party.
Yeah, like what the hell? Where did you come from?
Yeah.
I feel like tieflings outside of Baldur's Gate can be used pretty much like that.
Yeah.
They're flavored that way. Every damn campaign has 3 tieflings in it.
Okay.
Because everyone plays as a tiefling.
Wait, we've had 2.
Yeah.
We've had 2.
Yeah. There's almost always a tiefling. But in the reality of the world, right, they're supposed to be rare. I think it would be a fitting background for a tiefling.
Yeah.
Mine is the last one from the Player's Handbook, and that's Outlander. And the feature is called Wanderer. You've got a memory for geography, landscapes, topography, and maps. If you've been to a specific land, settlement, or noteworthy feature, you can always recall the details you need to know to navigate to, through, and around it. Additionally, you can find food and fresh water for yourself and up to 5 other people every day, assuming that the land you're in sports things like small animals, fresh water, berries and nuts, and other items can be scavenged or gathered. All the other ones are, I know a guy. This one is, I am that guy.
There you go.
Yeah. I can get you there and I can find the shit.
I'm the guy. I'm the dude.
Guy.
I'm the one.
Yeah.
I am him.
So, for how often do we go hunting in our campaigns while we're traveling?
Because we have Dave in our group all the time. Well, we did when he was a Leonin. Now he's a fairy.
Yeah. But I really feel like
Good for Dave.
Yeah, branching out.
he literally rolls randomly on tables to find out what he's
Oh,
gonna
I know.
play.
I've
Yeah,
created
so-
characters with Dave using the D20 method.
Lord.
Yeah. So the Outlander is going to be absolutely perfect for all of our shit got stolen. How are we going to live? I'm okay. We can do it.
We'll survive.
The 18 NPCs we're traveling with are going to starve to death, but we're okay.
We'll be fine. The four of us.
Donner party.
The
Yes.
cool people, like the cool crew, right? You know a guy. It's okay.
I am that guy.
I am him. My next one is called The Haunted One, which comes from Ravenloft. And basically the concept behind it is that something so terrible happened to you in your history that you are haunted by it for the rest of your life. So the feature you get is what's called Heart of Darkness, which basically means that anyone who comes across you can look you in the eye and know that you've seen some shit. And I feel like they then feel terrible for you. So even though they're afraid of you, they will actually help you as best they can.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, this poor, unfortunate soul. So unless you kind of like shown that you're going to be like mean or hurt them or be aggressive towards them, they will actually take up arms alongside you to help you. Because they're just like, I really want you to not have to do this by yourself and be alone.
Yeah.
Right?
You've seen enough shit.
Yeah, you're so tortured.
Through the power of friendship.
Yeah.
You need to have this for Curse of Strahd because there's no other way that those peasants are going to team up with you.
Yeah.
Even then, they've seen enough.
So I asked everybody from here to pick one that you thought was interesting and look it up yourself.
Yeah.
What'd you guys land on?
So I've got one, and I want to stick with the Skag theme.
Sure.
So when I brought up earlier, the Inheritor.
Cool.
Right? So you basically get to have some piece of inheritance. We're not talking about generational wealth. I mean, it could be if you wanted to.
Yeah.
This is another one of those ones. You got to work with your DM, and you got to work together pretty well to figure out what it's going to be. But I really like the idea that you're inheriting some sort of cursed item.
Yeah.
Whether or not you know it's even cursed is great. I would play it as I don't know that it's a cursed item. It's just a family heirloom.
Yeah.
And over the course of this adventure, my DM is going to emotionally abuse me by pulling up this inherited item that I can't let go of because it's a family heirloom. It's the only thing that ties me to my dead mother at this point.
Emotionally at first.
At first.
Until you destroy it.
I also like this because it does give you a...
What do you mean, Megan?
Shut up, Adam.
It does give you a D8 table for things to roll on if you don't have your own items. So, you know, documents, trinkets. Interesting, trinket is on here twice. They really want you to have a trinket. Even clothing, jewelry, arcane book.
I think trinket is on there twice because they've got special gothic trinkets in
Specific
Curse of
ones.
Strahd.
Yeah. This one's from Skag, though.
No, I know, but like there are all sorts of trinket tables all the way
Yes,
through
there
different
are,
books. There's
yeah.
one in Icewind Dale. There's one in Witchlight. So
Now, the one that stood out to me, there's two more that I intentionally left for the end because they were the most interesting to me. One would be a written story, song, poem, or a secret. So something really specific to your family.
yeah,
Or the other one being a tattoo or body marking.
Love a good tattoo.
You've got, you've got a birthmark.
or a dragon
That-
mark.
Or a dragon mark. Your family, as far as you know, has no draconic ties. Why do you have a dragon mark?
Yeah. Or you. I do like though that you as a dungeon master can then torture them with like, oh, I know this song. You can be like, and I have modify memory.
Yes.
So
Do you know this song?
yeah,
Do you have the time
So evil.
to listen to me whine?
okay. No, I don't. The one that I chose was Faceless. This is from Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. And the reason that I chose this is because it is so freaking close to Charlatan, but it's different.
Okay.
It's a little bit more potent. It is called Dual Personalities. Before
that.
this section, there is a D10 table of faceless personas, which you can select from in order to get inspired about an alter ego that you might want your character to have. This is what Charlatan had.
Very
It was the
similar to
false
Charlatan,
identity.
yeah.
However, you need to work with your DM because this is for plot purposes and not surprise gotcha moments.
Yeah.
Some of the options here, as opposed to like, oh, you can cheat at cards and shit, which is what the Charlatan had.
Mm-hmm.
You can pose as a vengeful spirit, a manifestation of a deity or of your faith, an impersonation of another hero, the embodiment of a school of magic, and other shit like that.
Yeah.
So it's much bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
Almost everyone who knows you as your persona. And the moment you put on your disguise and embody your other identity, you become indistinguishable from them. The moment you remove your disguise, no one will be able to recognize you as your other persona either. So you are effectively playing two characters.
Yeah.
Anyone who tries gaining more information about you when you're in your disguise is going to be left confused and bewildered because there's nothing to know. You can swap between personas as often as you'd like, but don't abuse it. It says right in there, beware.
Yeah.
Because if anyone finds out, your cover may be irrevocably blown. And so...
And this is incredibly tricky to do. Like, you're going to want some seasoned players if you're going to try and pull this off.
Yeah, well, I pulled this off with Charlie. Do you remember? He was a mastermind rogue, and he came into the campaign at level 18.
Yep.
So we were wrapping up. Everybody else had gone through these huge storylines. He wanted a backstory. So I gave him 3 other personas and a massive disguise kit.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we met him as the other personas.
Oh, interesting.
Before we met
throughout
him.
the campaign.
Yeah.
Before Charlie ever sat at the table, he developed these NPCs.
He had been there, yeah.
Right? So I had been dropping hints, and then he showed up. And like, oh yeah, we should go talk to this person. He's like, I am that person.
I am that guy.
Yeah,
I am
so-
him. Yeah.
To me,
It happened once, and I was like, oh, neat. And it happened again, like, oh, fuck, really? You had 2? And then it happened a third time. And Dan just, like, slow turned at Charlie and was like, what else? What else is there to
How
know?
many
much
more?
more?
Yeah.
So Faceless was a lot of fun.
absolutely.
That's really cool. I chose one from the...
Bigsby's?
I did not choose from Bigsby's.
Okay.
I even made a comment in my notes to say, y'all thought I would choose a Giants one, but I didn't. Because I've already talked about the Giants
Been
feats
there,
in
done
other
that.
episodes. So I chose a Witchlight one, which was the Witchlight hand, which we did talk
Great
about
choice.
briefly. But when I
great
read
choice.
it, I thought it was really neat because the 2 feats that you get is you get a Carnival Companion, which basically means you get an extra NPC that you know a guy.
The companions are so interesting.
So wild.
Because you could choose like any of the performers. Obviously, a retired performer. You can choose an old blink dog.
Yep.
You can choose a cheery sprite. Like and technically, you can choose anything from the monster manual. It says really.
I mean, you're in the Feywild. Let your imagination
Yeah.
go wild.
One of them is like a mote of light that doesn't speak. And
A
just
harmless
follows-
magical
Just
wisp.
like,
Yeah, right?
hey, listen.
Yeah.
No, no, I have PTSD from that.
And then the other part you get is you get, of course, Carnival Fixture, which basically means that you have free lodging, food, all those kinds of things when you're within the Carnival grounds. And additionally, you can like wander around and partake in what's going on with no cost to you at all. I feel like you can extend this to the party that you're wandering around with. Again, this is very hyper-specific to the world, but I feel like you could flavor this one to any other campaign.
I mean, a traveling carnival can be
Traveling
anywhere.
carnival, or even just like you are part of a festival.
Yeah.
Or like you are part of like an entertaining, like a theater, a theatre.
Yeah, like a troop.
Yeah.
Theater troupe. Yeah.
Like you've got a theater troupe where you just like that's where your hideout is.
Coachella.
Right? And, like we go to Coachella every year, right? So I just
I guess Burning Hands.
Burning Man's?
Yeah.
Burning Man's. But again, like this is what kind of inspired me to like read more about the book, and I was like, I kind of am pretty interested in it at this point.
It's a great book.
So
All right, well, before we go any further into Wildland the Witchlight, let's pause for an info break.
If you've been inspired by the conversation in this episode, please feel free to reach out and share your creativity and ideas with us and the rest of the community. You can reach us on Facebook and Instagram or on our subreddit at r/it'samimic. Also, if you're feeling particularly generous, please follow and subscribe and leave us positive reviews, likes, and comments. Engagement like that helps us pop up on search engines and keep this show running.
All right, let's get into our final thoughts, inspirations. What were kind of our final takeaways here? Should we roll for it?
Sure.
oh god, I cheated.
I went first so that I don't knock anybody over again.
Did we roll? I rolled a 9.
I
you're-
rolled a
you're-
6.
you're
You're
first.
first.
Okay. So my final thoughts here is that I always forget that the other books and modules will have backgrounds and feats added to them. They're not just modules for a like storyline or extra races or what have you. That looking at them specifically for backgrounds might be helpful for more inspiration, not only for you as a player, but of course for you as a DM as well. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're a DM, if you're going to do like Wildland the Witchlight, for example, look to the background. These are the kind of characters that
You're going to end up with.
they expect your players to play.
You want a good way to fill out the world? Go through all of these and just go nuts. Use these to fill your worlds out.
I agree.
I kind of gave my inspiration up top, but use this as the first place you go when you're building a character.
Yeah.
You kind of know what the races are. You know what the classes are already.
Might
start
guide you in
here.
that direction,
Start
right?
here and work your way up. Start with a strong
I'm excited to see
foundation.
what the new ones look like when they start adding more of like your languages and things like
Absolutely.
that into them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been blessed by using D&D Beyond, so I forgot that they were even in other books. I just pull up the giant list that's
And like
in
click
there.
on them, yeah.
And then it's probably every 2 or 3 months I will just go through this list
and find one
and review them as an inspiration for an NPC. that
There's
my players
so
are gonna
much
run
good
into.
shit in there, right?
So much.
So I guess my last thought here is it says that you can mix and match features and any other things that you want to make it make sense for your character. But when they say mix and match, they literally mean in the player's handbook, don't make up your own, but take the sailor one and put it on the Acolyte if that makes sense to you because you were a traveling Acolyte.
Yeah.
That kind of shit, right?
Absolutely.
So mix and match. With this many fucking options out there, you might as well just make up your own. But remember, if it's more powerful than I know a guy,
Yeah.
it's probably too powerful. And make sure that you get DM's approval first. But background should be the thing that supports and fleshes out your backstory.
Yep.
Yeah.
It should
And
help
matches.
you.
Don't choose something that's just for stats
Yeah.
and doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can already take stats from any of them and mix them and match them with the background, with the
Yeah,
features.
like as long as it makes sense, like go crazy. But remember, there are so many interesting options out there, like anthropologist and gambler and so many house
Intern.
agents and shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
like so many cool things out there. So that's my big thing is if you don't want to spend the money on it, just know I know a guy could just mean I have a mount. I would for me that's an equivalent. You don't have to spend money on a mount. You just give up your feature.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a mount. Right?
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Right.
If they are going to let you get more spells or let you get a specific kind of feat or let you get then
Talk to your DM.
yeah, then get NPCs, then get a +1 item, then get a whatever. But this is your thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is what you get.
Removing
You don't
the
get the rest of it.
Exactly.
Yeet. All right, anyway, that's all for this discussion on backgrounds in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Please take a second to engage with a like, follow, comment, and review to help push our engagement. And don't forget to subscribe to find future inspirations for your campaigns.
If you'd like to support us, we have a store with some merch and a donate button on our website, www.itsamimic.com, as well as a Patreon. This episode and others can also be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and most other podcast apps. Thanks for listening to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're going to get.
This has been an It's a Mimic production. Please check the show notes for this episode to see links, time codes, and credits. And don't forget to reach out and share your own inspirations.
What are you doing again? Background.
Backgrounds.
Are we excited about this one?
You know what? It'll be an interesting conversation. I think it's one of the most overlooked aspects of character creation.
I want you to know, this has nearly been recorded about 5-6 times.
Honestly, I saw this and I was shocked that it hadn't been recorded.
Well,
Is this the first time we've talked about backgrounds, or has it been talked about again?
No,
before?
first time.
Oh, okay.
Wild.
Okay, yeah. I originally had it as a 13-part miniseries,
Yeah.
but that was going to be really short episodes,
Yeah.
right? And then it was going to be an 8-part like series during just like topic on the regular podcast.
Right.
And then it was going to be something that Terry I wanted to take over for a little bit to talk with, grab one of the hosts and do 6 episodes on this. And then it was in the schedule and out of the schedule. And so
Right.
here we are summing it up because next year they're going to release one D&D.
Yeah.
Whatever it's going to be called.
And this
It's
will be
all-
moot.
Yeah, it's all going to be backgrounds or from here to the horizon, and it's all going to be changed and different, and so we might as well fucking
Let's cover it while it's still here.
yeah,
Cover it while it exists.
before it all changes. Megan, do you have the coldest of opens?
I do. Are you surprised?
No, I'm not actually.
And as if Strixhaven backgrounds aren't powerful enough, characters also get a bonus feat called Strixhaven Initiate. I don't know why I struggled with that word right now. I'm going to redo that sentence. As if Strixhaven backgrounds aren't powerful. Oh my god.
We'll get there.
I just need a nap, guys.
You're
Your
saying
1 o'clock nap wasn't enough. You need the 9 o'clock.
Yeah. Amazing. I have to pee.
I was about to sing the Bluey theme because for some reason I had that in my head instead of It's a Mimic.
Why are you still here? Leave already.